So my dear friend, my dear friends, now we already discussed about the plural of positive way. Now we learn that negative and plural. Now when the negative sentence is given there, so it is the different from positive sentence. So here the structure is given: subject plus verb plus not plus one of the plus plural noun plus other words. So my dear friends, you can see here that the no is given. Next, subject plus verb plus not plus comparative degree plus then plus some other. We have add here some other. Okay, not more than many other or most other. When the sentence is negative, at that time we write some other. But my dear friends, here we already learned that suppose singular, so we use no other, so is plural, very few, as is. But negative, so some, only some, are as. Okay, let's see the example. The first sentence is: the rat is not one of the biggest animals. So here now we are going to change into comparative degree. So first of all, rat is not. So the rat is not. We remove the same thing, one of the. So here biggest. What is the comparative degree of biggest? Bigger. The rat is not bigger than some other animals. Okay, the rat is not bigger than some other animals. Same thing in positive degree. So all of you know very well that when we try to make positive degree, we start from the last. What is the plural now? Animals. So before animal we can write here some. So some animals are at least, some animals are at least as big as the rat. So here in negative sentence we use some or at least. Clear my friend? So let's see. Big Bazaar is not the largest of all supermarkets. So first of all, we are going to make comparative degree. So big bazaar is not. Big bazaar is not. Now that largest of larger than. Big bazaar is not larger than some other supermarkets. Okay, my dear friends, so I have added something new, that is some other. Now, here, first of all, we try to make comparative degree. Okay, now comparative degree. Peter was not the most splendid of all contestants. So first of all, Peter was not the most splendid, more splendid. Okay. Peter was not the most splendid. So Peter was not more splendid than some other contestants. Contestants. Okay, so here I add some other. Now next, comparative degree. Hercules was not the bravest of all the warriors. So Hercules was not bravest का comparative degree braver than. Hercules was not braver than some other warriors. That is the comparative degree. Now we are going to make positive degree. So before we start to make positive degree, we have to write it down some. Now what is the plural now? Supermarket. So some supermarkets are at least as large as big bazaar. Okay. Next, Peter was not the most splendid of all contestants. Peter was not more splendid than some other contestants. So very few contestants are at least as splendid as Peter. Okay. Very few, not very few, some, sorry, here we can write some contestants are at least as splendid as Peter. Hercules was not the bravest of all. So some warriors are at least as brave as Hercules. So we add here some other warriors at least as brave as Hercules. So the structure is different here of negative sentence. So you please remember the structure. Okay. Now you can write in your notebook. Vande Mataram friends. So let's see the exercise of plural, that is the degrees of comparison. So I have given here the plural form of degrees and the negative form of degrees. Another thing is that here I have written the answer of superlative degree, comparative degree and positive degree of plural, and here the negative of plural, the superlative degree, comparative degree and positive degree. Suppose you are confused, at that time you can see the example and you can try to remember the things. Okay my dear friends. So let's see and try to solve the sentences. So here you can see that the rose is one of the most beautiful flowers. So what is rose here? Rose is flower. So when we are going to make comparative degree, the rose is more beautiful than many other flowers. So when we use one of them, try to convert it into comparative degree, at that time you can write many other. The same thing is positive degree. So before we start the positive degree, we have to add very few, and after that plural noun. So what is rose? That's flower. So very few flowers are as beautiful as the rose. That is the sentence. Now you can see that in negative form, the rose is not one of the most beautiful flowers. Here the rose is one of the most beautiful flowers, and here you can see that the rose is not one of the most beautiful flowers. So when we converted into comparative degree, at that time write it down the same thing. The rose is not more beautiful than some other flowers. Suppose the positive given here, so we can write many other, and about the negative sentence we can write some other. Many other, some other. Many other, some other. Next, in affirmative sentence, positive degree we use very few are as s. So in negative sentence we use some are at least as s. Very few are as s, some at least as s. Very few are as s, some are at least as s. Some flowers are at least as beautiful as the rose. When the sentence is about negative, at that time we add at least. Okay, so let's see the example. First of all of you know very well that now we are going to make comparative degree. So Komal is one of the cleverest students. So what is Komal? That is student. Now how to make comparative degree? Komal is remove one of the. What is the comparative of cleverest? Cleverer. So Komal is cleverer than most other, या many other, most other students of our class. Komal is cleverer than most other students of our class. First of all we make comparative degree, after that positive degree, so that you can understand very well. Now the second one, comparative degree. Rabindranath Tagore is one of the most emotional poets of India. So Rabindranath Tagore is one of the, remove most emotional. So we can write here more emotional than most other. Yeah, you can write many other poets of India. Okay, Rabindranath Tagore is more emotional than most other poets of India. Now third one, Mr. Patel is one of the happiest persons. So what is Mr. Patel? Person. So we try to make comparative degree here. Comparative degree. So first of all, Mr. Patel is, remove one of the happiest. So happier, Mr. Patel is happier than most other persons. So Mr. Patel is happier than most other person. Komal is cleverer than most other students. Rabindranath Tagore is more emotional than most other poets. Mr. Patel is happier than most other persons. Now, we are going to make positive degree. So, you can see that first of all, we have to write very few and plural noun. So, positive degree. Komal is one of the cleverest students. What is Komal? The students of our class. So, we can write that very few students of our class, very few students of our class are as clever as, very few students of our class are as clever as Komal. The next thing, positive degree. Rabindranath Tagore is one of the most emotional poets of India. Rabindranath Tagore is more emotional than most other poets of India. So, very few poets of India are as emotional as Rabindranath Tagore. Okay, so here you can see that very few poets of India are as emotional as Rabindranath Tagore. Mr. Patel is one of the happiest persons. Mr. Patel is happier than most other persons. And now we try to make positive degree. So first of all, very few persons are as happy as Mr. Patel. Okay? Very few persons are as happy as Mr. Patel. That all of you are very well known about these things, but something is changed in negative sentence. Suppose the rose is not one of the most beautiful flowers, so we can use not some other, and in positive degree some are at least as. Okay, let's see. First of all, we make comparative degree. Komal is not one of the cleverest students. One of the cleverest students. So, Komal is not one of the cleverest or cleverer. Komal is not cleverer than some other. Komal is not cleverer than some other students of our class. Okay, so I have add here some other. Why? Because this is negative sentence. Next thing, Rabindranath Tagore is not one of the most emotional poets. So, let's make comparative degree. Rabindranath Tagore is not one of the remove most emotional. So more emotional than some other poets of India. So I have add here some other. Why? Because this is negative sentence. Next, Mr. Patel is not one of the happiest persons. So let's make comparative degree. Mr. Patel is not one of the remove happiest. So happier. Mr. Patel is not happier than some other persons. So Mr. Patel is not happier than some other persons. So here we make comparative degree of negative sentence. Now we try to make positive degree. So let's see the structure. Some are at least as. Okay. So positive degree. Komal is not cleverer than some other students of our class. So some students of our class, some students of our class are at least as clever as Komal. So I add here some after that plural noun. Some students of our class are at least as clever as Komal. Rabindranath Tagore is not one of the most emotional poets of India. Rabindranath Tagore is not more emotional than some other poets of India. Now, how can we make positive degree? So first of all, we write it down. Some. Okay. What is Rabindranath Tagore? Poet. So some poets of India, are at least as emotional as Rabindranath Tagore. Okay. So some are at least as. Now the last one. Mr. Patel is not one of the happiest persons. Mr. Patel is not happier than some other persons. So positive degree. Some persons are at least as happy as Mr. Patel. So my dear friend, all of you understood very well. So here I have divided the affirmative sentence and negative sentence. Whenever you are confused at that time, you see the table. That is very easy way I try to make the sentences. Okay, thank you. So write it down in your notebook.